Will you help me?
Obviously.
Count me in too. We're here for you, Arch.
Veronica takes on Hiram and Gladys, while Archie realizes you really can't trust anyone of any age in Riverdale. So let's break down Season 3, Episode 14 and find out just what happened. What's going on, Riverdale family? Lisa here, and I know this has been a tough week for the Riverdale community, as well as just, the world in general with the loss of Luke Perry. I almost didn't want to watch this week's episode because I felt like it would just make me too emotional. But I pushed through, and it did make me emotional seeing Fred come up on screen at the end of the episode, and then the in memoriam card. We don't know exactly what's going to happen with the character of Fred. We do know he's kind of like that moral compass of the show. Really, he is, I would say, the heart of the show, kind of more than Archie in ways, at least for me. So I don't know what's going to happen moving forward, but I made a whole video talking about Luke, which you can find down in the description below. I don't want to spend too much time on it because it's just going to make me sad. So let's just go ahead and dive into this week's episode. So this week's episode is titled Fire Walk With Me, and we find Betty getting some revenge on Alice, Archie taking in a mysterious kid, Jughead trying to wrangle the newly merged Serpents and Gargoyles, and Veronica getting tired of Hiram and Gladys. So let's break it all down. When it comes to Veronica, her speakeasy has pretty much been taken over by Gladys and Hiram, who have made themselves oh too comfortable for Veronica's liking. Veronica, however, owes them both a bunch of money, so she's got to figure out some way to get them to back off and give her her space. In order to make some more money to hopefully, have leverage there, Veronica and Reggie turn the speakeasy into a secret casino, but nothing is really secret when Hiram is still alive and breathing. Hiram actually wants to bring a potential client who manufactures playing cards to see the casino, and Veronica strikes a deal saying that if she helps him land this big client, then Hiram will have to shave off 5% of her debt. Now Hiram says he'll consider it. Veronica then makes the same offer of shaving off 5% of the debt to Gladys if she lets Gladys sing at the speakeasy, and of course Gladys is like, hey, 5%, I can deal with that. Things though go south when Hiram's client starts heckling Gladys as she's singing, causing Gladys to whip out that switchblade and Reggie to kick the guy out. Now Hiram is definitely not happy as he thinks that Veronica may have just cost him a big client. Veronica then finally just has enough when she sees Gladys pouring herself drinks behind the bar and Hiram continuing to schmooze clients that she decides to lay down the law. Yep, Veronica wants to employ the pretty poisons to basically be security, and she even has a cash advance for Tony. Now Veronica does ask Tony if she needs to run it by Cheryl first, but Tony's immediately like, nope, we have a deal, because you know what? Tony's tired of Cheryl taking over this gang. This is Tony's gang and she's making the decisions. Now in this episode, we have things still being rocky for Shoni, as this episode finds the poison serpents and gargoyles as well as the farmies kind of going at each other's throats. And Tony is still upset with Cheryl about how she's been representing the poisons.
I don't want to have to suspend anyone for loose cannon behavior, least of all my own girlfriend.
Agreed. That would make hosting Pretty Poisons meetings at my house incredibly awkward.
So when Tony is leaving for the Poisons' first night of work at the speakeasy, Cheryl says she feels under the weather and that she won't be going, and that she'll be asleep when Tony gets back. And she looks pretty sad. Like, man, does it feel cold in here to anybody else? Shoni shippers, I think this ship could be sinking soon if this keeps up, if this fight for power over the Poisons and all of this keeps up. Yeah, but the Poisons do their job and stop Hiram and Gladys at the entrance of the speakeasy, and Veronica gives them the rundown. They gotta play by her rules if they're going to get in, which means showing her some respect and not flexing the debt over her head, and to let Veronica run her business her own way. And then they'll both be paid back. And so it seems like Veronica's deal works, at least for this night, as Hiram and Gladys both leave. Now look at Veronica finally coming up with some legit plans and standing up to her dad. Now we just gotta see how long it lasts and if she continues to follow through, because we've seen her make little deals like this before and then immediately crack because Hiram easily has a hold on her. As for the whole Betty and the farm situation goes, Betty is still very concerned about Kevin, who keeps getting in deeper with the farm, as well as Alice, who's trying to sell the house. But Betty, she's pulling out all the stops trying to scare off those potential buyers.
Eyeing the fireplace, which is original to the house.
Yes, and comes with fun accessories like the shovel my mother used to knock out my father, the notorious serial killer, the Black Hood.
I loved that scene. I loved Betty in this episode, actually, just seeing her be funny like that, and then when she kind of throws her little temper tantrum later, I don't know, I just really liked it. Anyway, her friends have her back though, as Veronica, Archie, and Jughead all offer her a place to stay so that she doesn't have to move to the farm. Betty then tries to talk to Kevin, but he calls her a detractor and doesn't want to listen to anything she has to say. So Betty does some snooping on a farm meeting after school, and she sees Evelyn leading all these farmies, including Kevin, as they hold their hands over Bunsen burners. What kind of weird-ass cult is this? First they want to drown you, then they want to burn you. I'd be running for the hills, man. So Betty, she decides to go to someone who is close to Kevin, and that would be Josie, because Josie now lives with Kevin since their parents are married. But Josie says she doesn't really know too much and hasn't told Sierra or Tom about Kevin's behavior, but that Kevin has been sneaking out late at night. But she always thought it was to go to Fox Forest, but now she knows it might be to meet with those farmies. So Betty follows them out one night into the forest, and she tries to stop Kevin from walking across these burning coals, but she's too late, and he does it, makes it across, now thinks he's purified, and he's like, that felt euphoric. Yeah, this boy has crossed over to the farm. I don't know if there's any rescuing him at this point. So the next day at school, Kevin and Evelyn, that's really fun to say, come to talk to Betty to be like, you should have stayed after that. But Betty, she's just sitting there pounding away on her computer being like, I am about to expose you guys. You want to go on the record and say anything? But then Kevin and Evelyn just pull this handy dandy little card out of their back pocket saying that if you publish that article, everyone will know about that man that was killed in your kitchen and the cover-up and everything. Yeah, Betty finds herself in a standstill because the farm knows all of Alice's dirty secrets, which mean that they also know a lot of Betty's, and if Betty pulls the trigger on that article, they're gonna be exposed. So this means Betty's gonna have to find a new plan, but first she has to pack up her room to move because Alice has sold the house. Now when Alice goes out on an errand, Betty realizes just how to get back at Alice for now. She sets the house on fire. Damn, Betty. As for our warring gangs, the newly recruited Gargoyles, and to the Serpents, they're still not adjusting well, especially that creepy dude Kurtz. And, well, someone has stolen thousands of dollars from the chemistry lab for equipment that could be used to, make drugs. So Weatherby tells Jughead and Tony that they basically are on thin ice and have one more strike left before them and their gangs are kind of kicked out. So Jughead knows he has to whip his gang into shape. So he meets with the Serpents, and Kurtz admits to stealing the chemistry equipment as part of a quest for G&G, and then more fights almost break out, and Jughead, he's just like up to here and says that these newer members, they need to learn the Serpent Law. But Kurtz is kind of like, you guys need us more than we need you because we outnumber you. So Jughead has to come up with some better way to merge these gangs and let these Gargoyles know who's boss. He's got to offer them something better because they've kind of learned that they're not immune from the law like Jughead promised. So Jughead goes to talk to FP, and FP tells Jughead to figure out his version of the Serpents and give them a reason to be part of it, to be proud, and to outthink the bad guys. Well, Jughead better think fast because Kurtz is still pretty much ignoring all the rules and even tries to kill Fangs. And I know I did this when I showed the promo in my last recap, but did anybody get like You'll Float 2 vibes from it at this point?
Don't be scared, you dirty serpent spy. You're about to ascend. You'll fly too.
You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too.
Jughead finally comes up with a drastic idea with the help of FP that they present to the Serpents. FP is going to deputize the Serpents, and they'll be partnered with the Sheriff's Department to be FP's eyes and ears and help with the investigations, and they'll get paid and also receive school credit. Seems like a pretty sweet deal, right? But to do this, they have to have a unanimous vote from the Serpents, and well, everybody raises their hand but one person. Can you guess who? It's Kurtz, who sees himself out the door, and really nobody is sad about it. Then the Serpents go and clean out the old Gargoyle lair to make it the new Serpent headquarters. But I got a feeling that Kurtz is going to be back with those other crazy rogue Gargoyles that were mentioned in this episode, who are apparently crazier than Kurtz, so I don't think it's going to be pretty. Finally, let's talk about Archie and the boy he finds hiding in the gym. So to avoid paying dues, Archie kind of takes on the janitor role, cleaning up the gym, and one night when Josie comes to meet him, they hear a noise from a back room and find a young boy hiding out. His name's Ricky, and they take him to Pop's to get some food, and they learn that Ricky, he says he never knew his parents and has been staying at the gym off and on for a few weeks because he ran away from a shelter and he doesn't want to go back. So he tries to hit the message home that he doesn't want Archie or anybody to call social services or he's going to run. When Archie asks if someone ever hurt Ricky, Ricky pulls up his sleeve to reveal the same brand that Archie has, the one that means sacrifice. And Ricky says that some older guys at the shelter gave it to him when they tried to recruit him as a runner with the G&G game and all that, and Ricky refused. So Archie really now has a soft spot for this kid. He kind of wants to become a mentor with him. He lets him stay in the garage, teaches him some boxing moves. Of course, promises to not call social services. But Archie does still get the number for Miss Weiss from Betty. Now, while at school, Archie has left Ricky at Pop's, but when he goes to pick up Ricky after school, Pops says that Ricky ran away when a bunch of older guys came banging on the window. But Ricky did leave behind a drawing, which is kind of a frightening one. It's got the Gargoyle King and then a sacrifice. So Archie can't find Ricky, and he really has no choice but to meet with Betty and call Miss Weiss and to try to get some information on him. And Archie also takes a copy of the sketch that they make of Ricky to pass around. So then he recruits Jughead and the Serpents to help him look for Ricky. They go check out the old Gargoyle Gang lair, and they find on the wall written are a bunch of names. And these names, most of them are crossed out except for two. That is Ricky D and Archie Andrews. All the others are people we've seen die because of this game, including Dilton and Ben, all the sisters, Joaquin, the warden. Yeah, so it seems like Archie and Ricky are next. They then find Ricky hiding behind the wall because he thought since the gargoyles left that this would be the last place they would look for him. So Archie takes Ricky back home and they get to bond some more. So when they're playing video games, Archie gets a call from Miss Weiss and he leaves the room to take it. And it seems like maybe Ricky is overhearing this conversation. Well, Miss Weiss has some pretty interesting information for Archie. Ricky's real name is Ricardo dos Santos, and he's actually Joaquin's younger brother. And this kid has a history of violent behavior and self-harm. So she's like, do you know where Ricky is right now? You need to be careful. And at this point, it seems like we have turned Riverdale into a horror movie like The Omen or The Good Son or The Bad Seed or something, because Archie's wandering around the house in the dark and can't find Ricky. And of course, then he turns around and Ricky's right there holding a butcher's knife, as expected, revealing that he's pretty much been hunting Archie this whole time, and that the only way that the gargoyles will let Ricky into G&G is to finish what Joaquin started, killing Archie. So Archie, he tries to talk Ricky down, but this kid, he's like, yeah, no, dude, you can't do anything about this. I am hardcore. I gave myself this brand. And then he actually slashes Archie, but runs off when Fred walks in, of course, to save the day. So Archie once again has to admit that he is an idiot for trusting the kid, and he knows that Ricky will definitely be coming back for him, maybe with more gargoyles this time. So yeah, it's not going to end because they also find the quest card that says kill the Red Paladin on the floor. So seems like this card has just been passed on from person to person, and it's not going to stop until someone kills Archie. So then Archie joins Jughead and Betty as they're cleaning out that gargoyle lair, and Archie's like, he doesn't know what to do because he is still marked for death, and he knows it's not going to end. People will still keep coming out of the woodwork for him, so, you know, he's like, what can I do? So Jughead proposes that Archie make the G&G game come to a head himself. And just what does that mean exactly? We'll have to see in the next episode. And thus wraps up the events of this week's episode. I mean, we've now hit all the different kinds of killers, right? Parent killers, teacher killers, now we got freaking kid killers going after Archie. It's like, what next? Is Vegas going to turn on Archie and all of a sudden become Cujo or something? Is it bad that I actually still don't care about Veronica and her speakeasy? I am, though, glad to see her finally kind of taking on Hiram and Gladys, but it's just not my favorite storyline on the show. I think Hiram and his manipulative ways have kind of like exhausted me, as is this kind of Griffins and Gargoyles thing. So I'm kind of just wanting to move it on to the farm and focus on that. Obviously, I feel like the farm and Griffins and Gargoyles have to be connected somehow, but let's move on for a little bit, right? Do we need a break from Griffins and Gargoyles? Is that just me? And also with the Veronica thing, am I really supposed to believe that like a 16-year-old and Reggie can take down Hiram and Gladys, two like longtime crime bosses? It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know, guys. Let's just take a look though at the promo for the next episode.
There's something I need to tell you about Mrs. Jones. Do you love her, FP?
I never was one for small town gossip.
How could you have done something so reckless?
I'm here for the Red Paladin.
How many of these guys am I fighting? And so continues our nerdiest mystery yet.
Okay, we get to see a little bit of a different love triangle. This time we got FP, Gladys, and Alice. I thought Alice's time was consumed with the farm and she doesn't have time for her own family and FP, but it seems like I'm wrong. We also have lots of fighting, sexy time, and stupid mistakes, so it just sounds like another typical episode of Riverdale, right? But it seems like as far as bringing G&G to a head to Archie, he's just gonna stand in a ring and invite all these cosplayers and G&G players whose quest it is to kill the Red Paladin to try to kill him. I'm not really sure if that's a good plan, but we'll wait and see, right? But yeah, that pretty much wraps up this week's Riverdale recap, guys. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. Which storyline are you ready to just get over with? What do you think about these couples kind of having some ups and downs, you know, with Shoni? Let me know your thoughts, all your comments, whatever. And after that, you can subscribe if you haven't yet already, because I love talking about Riverdale and a lot of other nerdy things. You can check out more of my videos right over here. As for now, my name is Lisa. Thanks for hanging out with me. I just hit my microphone. I'm sorry about that. And I'll see you next time.